I feel like
Uh-huh.
it's only been a week since we last did this.
Would you believe it's only been a week since we last did this?
Well, that explains a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yeah. Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to? Don't be saying nothing.
No, well... So a few weeks back, while the most recent episode of Battle for Dream Island: The Power of Two was in the writing stage, I did possibly a thing that I shouldn't have done, which is to get an idea in my head, not being involved in the writing of it, but to get an idea in my head and then put that idea into action.
Right.
Which was to cover the regular intro music for Teapot in a more ethereal, less resolved style, which I did, and then I posted it, and then I was anxious. And Sam Thornbury, who is generally in charge of the Teapot stuff, was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I like this could work.
Right.
And so
when you said you release it into the wild?
No.
Or did you private messaged?
On the Jack and Jellyfy work server.
Okay.
I was like...
So it wasn't publicly?
No.
Good,
no,
good,
no,
okay.
No.
I got a little anxious there.
No. I was like, hey, this might work. And Sam was like, yeah, this might work. And so, sometime later, when the episode was finished, up it went with my cover of the intro music under a specially animated different intro. Because it's a very weird episode of Teapot. It doesn't focus on anyone who's competing in the show. It focuses on some characters who have been stuck in a school classroom for 6 years at this point.
Wow. Sounds like a Doctor Who spin-off.
And yeah, it was a very, very weird episode, which I felt needed a weird intro.
Okay.
Right. And so it got a weird intro.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little while later, I was like, I'm looking at the storyboard for this scene, and it feels like it could use another cover of a different piece of intro music from the previous season that these specific characters got stuck in the classroom in. So I do the arrangement.
Yep.
And then the audio for the scene comes back, and I'm like, oh, I've absolutely muffed the pacing on this. It's too slow. It's not going to work. And I'm like, never mind. It doesn't matter. And then Sam throws a snippet of it into the episode anyway, and I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I guess I will use the release video for this that is marked from BFDI Teapot 11 and not the one that says unused music. Because it's not unused music, it was used anyway. So yes, 2 examples of shooting one shot, one of which worked out well, and the other of which, well, I guess it worked out. But,
well, it was used.
Yeah,
so.
It was used. And so...
So clarify what Teapot is.
Teapot is Battle for Dream Island: The Power of Two. It's an animated web series, one of the genre of object shows, which is sort of a flimsy genre. Just like saying that animated is a genre. It's a bit of a flimsy thing to say.
Yeah.
The trouble is that object shows have not solidly gotten out of their fictional reality show roots. Everyone's still making competition shows. There are some dramas, but not a lot. Hopefully someday people will make shows about inanimate objects that aren't inanimate that isn't a competition show, and they'll just proliferate, and that'll be great. But for now...
Well, it certainly, as a genre, goes very, very far back. I mean, Disney would animate toasters and kettles and what have you, so...
The thing is, this specific quote-unquote genre, object shows, traces its roots back to Total Drama Island.
Yeah.
Which wasn't an object show.
No, it wasn't.
To be clear.
No.
But it was a totally fictional animated reality show
Yeah.
where all the results are predetermined.
Yeah.
And the focus is less so on, who's going to win.
But more on the drama.
Yeah, more on the drama, yeah. So yeah, that went. As far as other things that are going on, I sucked them up on YouTube like this week, and eventually they'll be hitting streaming services once my distributor clears them. But we'll see how that goes.
Fair enough.
And I will make, cents on the dollar for that. But I've already been paid fairly handsomely for the tracks themselves.
Okay,
by
cool.
Jack and Jellyfy, so that's not... Any additional money that I get on the top of it is bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as far as inquiry submissions go, it's still in the queue, and in fact very few submissions have been processed in the week or so since I was told that it had been received.
Yep.
And there was a council meeting and a lot of things happened.
A lot of things happened.
Not just because it was budget week, but because there were motions on the AFL High Performance Centre, which both failed because they were destined to.
Yep.
And Derwent River Ferry expansion, which seems like a thing that people want.
Yeah, I think it's a very nebulous want, though. There's a difference between wanting and actually planning on using. And unless there is infrastructure to either A, be able to park, where you wanting to then get onto a boat.
Which is a problem with the existing Belleville terminal.
Yeah. And is destined to be a problem wherever it goes in Lindisfarne. But also there needs to be the bus connections as well, which trying to connect anything to a very unreliable bus service is also problematic.
The one with indefinitely suspended services.
It's criminal.
But hey, I guess fares are half price. For a year.
Yeah, good.
Anything else happen this week? No, I don't think so. No. What about you?
What about me? Oh, I got double jabbed. That was exciting. One in each arm. I got a flu jab and a COVID booster. And the COVID one especially ached like a thing that ached a lot. And I went to see my therapist. And I went to give blood. So, they're being poked and prodded in all sorts of ways this week. And both the therapist and the GP have told me that I need to get more exercise. Yeah. So I did a fair bit of walking yesterday and, got about 1,300 steps in today, and we'll try to get the momentum going again because I'm very conscious of the fact that it's beneficial both brain-wise and body-wise, and the flip side of that is that it is unbeneficial to me if I don't do it. So, double whammy. So I'm a bit achy at the moment, but went sort of up over the hill across Waverley and looked around and thought, you could fit a couple of football ovals up here. Sorry. That would really be throwing a cat amongst the pigeons and the wildlife and the orchids and the various rare plants. But other than that, not much.
Doctor Who?
There was some
Doctor Who.
Of variable quality. It was a mess. I'm sorry, but it was
just a little disjointed.
Absolute mess. And really, really felt like let's just keep throwing things at it to see if they will stick, because it's a two-parter. As long as we get to that cliffhanger at the end, we'll be fine. No one will notice what a mess this is. Yeah. So let's get as many characters into this episode as possible doing all sorts of things to distract the fact that this is a mess, when in fact part of the mess was the fact that there are all these people in there trying to distract you from thinking that it's a mess. It was a mess, Thomas.
Yeah. I hope the second part is good.
Yeah, it left sort of a taste in your mouth with that hope that the next episode is good, but that's not how things should work.
Mm.
You don't have a filler episode as the beginning half of a 2-part finale.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Bit of a roller coaster of a season, but then that's about as high as it goes, isn't it?
I mean, how long is this? So many seasons since the reboot, the big reboot, where we're going to have a bit of a break here because of this and because of that, and we're busy making all of these actors famous, and then they go off and do things.
Yeah.
Because they're famous, and you can't fault the actors for that, but when they're also the stars of this show, it's, yeah. Anyway, I'm feeling jaded and old, so let's watch a film.
Yeah.
Let's watch a film that was nominated for Best Animated Film in 2000 and... what was it?
So I think it would have been the 2003 Oscars in 2004.
That is correct. So it was up against Finding Nemo, which won.
Thank you, the Academy.
Yeah, thank you, the Academy. And Brother Bear, which was a Disney film. So, quote-unquote, 2 Disney films. I know Finding Nemo is not technically a Disney film, but it's a Disney film.
Not yet. Not at that point.
No. So what are we watching this week?
We are watching The Triplets of Belleville.
And I just realised that the plot synopsis on the back of that is not going to be much use to you, so I shall throw you what I read last week, if you would like to read that to our dear listener.
This animated film follows elderly French woman Madame Souza as she becomes involved in international intrigue when her grandson Champion, a professional cyclist, is kidnapped and taken abroad. Joined by her faithful dog Bruno, Souza embarks on a journey to find Champion, and stumbles across unlikely allies in the form of 3 sisters who are veterans of the vaudeville stage. Tracking down Champion's criminal captors, the quartet of old women use their wits to try and win the day.
Thomas is going to open the case.
It's already open.
It's already open, because I did this time at least get that ready before sending him the message that, hey, when you're ready, let's record. I'm getting better. Not. We're going to watch this film, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. So we shall catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B.
Or C, seeing as it's triplets.
Or D, since it's a quartet.
You mongrel.
No, I don't think the dog is a mongrel.
Let's not talk about Bruno. So what did you think?
Yeah, that was neat. I like that.
It is, again, French quirk. My terminology. I don't know what else to call it, so I think it fits. With a particular swirl of whimsy in there as well. And it just works.
It does.
Once, and I think this is another feature of French quirk, you need to get your head into the headspace of the world that is being portrayed.
Yep.
And that kilter that it takes will take a little bit of processing before you settle into it. That's certainly what I found. And then, yeah, everything just works.
It does.
Within its own world, you know, it's got a certain physics going on there.
Yep.
That is flexible. And it does lean into, I think, the early animated films where, in the same vein, gravity is variable. But it doesn't betray itself in that. There were certainly a lot of laughs going on with things that happened that would not have happened in the real world.
Oh, yeah.
But within this world, totally acceptable but still amusing because of that.
Yeah. Great use of caricature. All the characters. All either larger or smaller than life.
Yep.
And it's good.
And not just within human characters.
Yeah.
The dog characters, frog characters, even vehicles. That boat, I just absolutely adored that boat.
It's a good boat.
Yeah, and certainly the cars were quintessentially French, but with dimensions that were caricatures as well. One of the kids at the end of it said, "What was that?"
It's French.
It's French. Having not travelled to France, and I'm not sure where France appears on my list of places that I wish to go, there are certain parts of France that I would love to visit. The mountains. But the French certainly cop a bad rap as far as how they stereotypically react to tourists and foreigners. But this just makes them so incredibly lovable. Again, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but this and a number of the other French films that we have watched make me feel comfortable in the world that they're portraying.
Yep.
But it is usually not entirely accurate. It's France on a tilt, I guess. The other thing that I had as far as my notes was concerned, which again leans into the stereotype, the traffic was portrayed incredibly well, and the behaviour of traffic. As for trying to describe this film to anyone, I don't know how you do it. Certainly the last French film we watched, Blanc Sec, that is easier to describe, I think, than this. As Raven said, what was that?
French.
It was French, and in a wonderful way. Yeah.
Some Tour de France notes. The voiture ballet is the broom wagon. It's the last car on the road, and it does typically pick up, one or two conked out riders on the particularly difficult mountainous stages.
Yeah.
And you know that everyone's in who's going to be in when it passes under the finish line.
Yeah. It was it's only 80 minutes long. But I had completely forgotten that beautiful sequence. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. And it is difficult to do so because it wouldn't make sense anyway if you tried to describe what was going on. Do you have anything else you wish to?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No.
Short and sweet as far as comments are concerned, because the flummoxedness of it all, but in a good way. This was recommended by Entuosferatu, one of our dear listeners, and I'm very, very grateful that he's suggested it. I am very wary of having asked everyone to provide suggestions, that it's a risk. We could absolutely hate these things, and we will say so. But this, no, I loved.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, speaking of Entuosferatu,
we shall move on.
The following segment has no title. Thank you. Over on Discord, Entuosferatu.
Hi, Entuosferatu.
Says, is Astro Boy good enough to watch at 1x speed? So this is a reference. This is a reference to a reference. So, some time ago, back before we called the pandemic a pandemic, there was an episode of a wrestling podcast called Looks Like Some Sort of Sidewalk Slam, which was hosted by Loading Ready Run members Adam Savadan and Graham Stark. And one of the descriptions that would be used to describe a good wrestling show was good enough to watch at 1x speed. And I was like, I can probably make some sort of design out of that. And so I did.
Yeah.
And I posted it on the Discord, and I got an inkling that maybe they wanted to do something with it. And then it was radio silence for a couple of years because of the pandemic. And then, sometime later, Beach, Brendan Deary, who is the business manager and merch manager for Loading Ready Run, is like, hey, so first of all, you haven't sold this anywhere, have you? And I'm like, No, because I sort of suspected this might be coming and it would make things a little awkward. And it's like, okay, we would like to buy the merchandising rights off of you. And so they did. And they made a shirt out of it, and I think it's been through a couple of restocks now, so
Cool.
presumably it's done well.
Excellent.
Yeah, which explains the question. Astro Boy is... I don't know how much you could speed it up.
No.
It's about pacing more than it is about the actual speed of the film.
Yeah.
You know, you can make a film faster and still have it be at the same pace, right?
Yeah.
Everything's relative.
Yeah. As for the timing of all this, it was interesting. With my walk that I went on today, I tend to listen to podcasts, and I was listening to, not really a podcast, but the equivalent of a radio play.
Yeah.
And normally I listen to my podcasts and have my podcast player set at 1.3 times speed. But I had to notch this down to 1 to actually have my head keep up with the dialogue and the drama that was going on. So.
The irony of me having produced this design is that I listen to most podcasts and indeed some loading ready run content at 1.5 times speed.
Yep.
It's certainly good enough to listen to at 1 times speed. I just have a lot of things that I'd like to get to.
Well, it was funny with this drama today. It took my brain probably 3 or 4 minutes to not think that everything was in slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I've had that with, like, a few podcast themes. So, like, oh, I'm only used to this.
yeah.
And then you go and look up the theme elsewhere, like on YouTube or on one of the music streaming services. And
It's too slow. It's too slow.
This should be lower pitched, obviously, because that's what... No.
And certainly with watching YouTube videos
Yep.
on my phone, I'm quite prone to having my thumb held on the screen just to speed it up to 2 times speed and let it go when something really interesting is happening.
Antwasratu continues for some time.
Yeah, he gives quite an in-depth description of Shining Time station details.
Yes. Unlike Bob the Builder, Thomas the Tank Engine wasn't redubbed with an American accent, as far as I remember. Ringo and then George Carlin were live-action rapper segments, with some kids and adults in the titular Shining Time station. Mr. Conductor was tiny, for some reason. It was weird.
Right.
A trait that carried over to the Thomas the Tank Engine film with Alec Baldwin in the conductor role.
That was sort of weird, that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have the context of Shining Time Station, because a lot of the wraparound in that film is just riffs on Shining Time Station, half of it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. It's interesting that Antwasratu is saying that Ringo was used in the wraparound as well.
Yeah.
Because certainly the first number of seasons, he did the narration in Thomas the Tank Engine as well. So, okay.
He continues.
He does.
I think they pretty much stopped doing American dubs of non-American English kids' TV, which led to kids adopting fun accents and vocabulary from Peppa Pig and now Bluey.
Yeah.
Though at the same time that we got American Bob, we got British Thomas, but with American intro song. And 3D American Noddy, of all things, which I had only known of before from Who's Line.
I had to laugh. He mentioned that as far as stopping doing American dubs, there was something that I watched this week that by chance was mentioned in a thread that I was following, and it was a show that I was unfamiliar with by the name initially, and then went looking for it, played it, and instantly a piece of music started playing that, I know this, I used to watch this as a kid. And it was actually made by BBC Scotland.
Right.
And boy, oh boy, there's a couple of Scottish street urchins in this show that really take a huge amount of tuning ear-wise to understand what these kids are saying to one another. And And in watching that, I instantly remembered this comment by Nosferatu, and I wondered, gee, this could do with a dub to know what...
Yeah, there's a comedian also in Scotland who goes by Limmy, did a sketch show called Limmy's Show. A lot of Scottishisms in there, and a lot of things that would be very difficult to understand without subtitles.
Yeah. Well, this show I remember watching as a kid. Certainly didn't have subtitles, but I'll actually pop a link to a particular episode and link to the particular spot where these kids are having some banter going on. It's thick. It really is. It's like soup. Thick, chunky soup. Trying to sieve it through your translator cortex.
Nosferatu continues.
He does.
Actual Astro Boy feedback, I would agree that it seems lesser than things that came out around it. It's not 90s VHS straight-to-video Disney rip-off level for sure. And there's some stinkers. There's some stinkers in the Disney direct-to-video
absolutely.
catalog.
Yeah.
And the rip-offs of the Disney direct-to-video content. And I remember it being pretty decent, he continues, but not amazing.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's a fair assessment.
If we get multicam podcast, can it include a live studio audience? I guess the Deranged Cat might count.
Oh, the Deranged Cat will be standing on the video mixer, queuing shots.
And regarding next week, which is to say this week, if I remember correctly, the available language setting won't make much impact.
We didn't even mention that, did we?
No, there's some English at the top and some English at the tail, but not anywhere else in the film, really.
It's certainly not a silent film.
No.
And there's certainly numerous times where French is being spoken.
Yes.
But you have the context well and truly, it's completely watchable without subtitles.
I think the bits of English at the top and tail would need to be localised.
Yep.
And I assume that's why they were.
Yep.
But, yes, it's very comprehensible, even if weird things are happening.
Yep.
E of Pie.
Hi, E of Pie.
Says Blanc Sec follow-up. Asking my mum if she saw it came to mind, because while she had given me Tintin Goes to Space when I was a kid, she also really liked Emily. She was the one who got it and showed it to us in my teens, and she liked it a lot. Mm-hmm. She watched it several times over the years, so brief, tasteful nudity is understood as something French cinema may do.
And there was some in
yes,
in this animated film too.
Not much comment on Astro Space Boy, but on the Robot Kids line, have either of you seen Alita Battle Angel?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. I haven't got round to it.
Oh, really?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I had no idea.
No.
I went to the pictures to see that, and certainly it is on the shelf. And I do have quite a soft spot for it, and would very much have liked to have seen the continuation of said story. I'm no longer holding my breath, though. Mm-hmm. It's been a number of years.
Was that a Del Toro?
It may well have been. I think it was.
No, Rodriguez.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you. I don't believe that it fared well at the box office, so that certainly held it back as far as a sequel was concerned, but I think for what it was quite a spectacular film, and interesting being raised within the context of Astro Boy. Great, wonderful, luscious-looking film, and well made, and I want more. I would like more.
Which will bring us up to the guesses.
It will.
We have two guesses. One from Nosferatu, who goes with Astrby, A-S-T-R-B-Y, and E of Pie, who goes for Astro Boy, with no space. E of Pie says that Astrby will be very funny if true. Nosferatu going for it, guessing that Colin went back to his 6-character roots. I regret to inform Mentor Sfarashu
I
that
wish
he
I-
did not.
I'm caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
When all that happened, I thought, oh, look, I wish I had. But if I had, then the points would have flipped between who they went to.
Yes, I can confirm it was Astro Boy with no space.
It was indeed.
Which will award the arbitrary point to E of Pi.
Well done, E of Pi. I'm going to show Thomas what this week's episode file name
That is very sensible.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Quite guessable. We encourage all of our dear listeners to have a go at guessing what the 8 or less letter/number file name is for the episode that we record, and also to contribute any comments,
Movie suggestions, etc.
recipes.
Send us disdain.
Yeah.
All we ever hear is
Not-
praise.
It's not disdain, that Dane. Now I want to find a Danish movie that we can watch.
I mean, the cop-out answer is to pick up some sort of version of Hamlet, isn't it?
It is. Something rotten in Denmark. Anyway, let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
It's my turn.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it can be your turn. If you want it to be your turn.
Well, I think it is. Because when it was my turn, wasn't it my turn last week? And then I said, I'm actually going to...
It depends what sort of precedent you want to continue going with. I don't mind either way.
Well, I'd actually picked something. So
Well, then go ahead.
Had
If-
you picked anything?
Vaguely,
Vaguely.
but I'm willing to drop it if you have something
Right.
actually picked.
I do have something picked.
I don't care too terribly about the alternating pattern if you actually have something picked out.
Well, I work on the premise that if it gets thrown to me and then I instead throw in a listener contribution, then it then defaults to me again afterwards.
I don't know that actually checks out, but
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. Anyway.
I don't mind.
Uh-huh.
As long as there's no logic to it and not faulty logic.
There's plenty of logic to it. Okay, so Astro Boy.
Yeah.
That came out in what year?
I think that was
2009, wasn't
yeah.
it? And it wasn't even nominated for Best Animated Film.
No.
However, it has been mentioned, and it was mentioned in this episode, there was a certain Spartanness to it that seemed sort of out of sync with films of the same era.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to throw another one into the mix from 2007.
Uh-huh.
So this is 5 years after Finding Nemo,
Yep.
2 years before Astro Boy. This particular film was nominated for Best Animated Film. It lost against Ratatouille.
Thank you, the Academy.
Which, again, 2 years before Astro Boy, I thought Ratatouille was a beautiful looking film.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason that I suggested this was it came up in my Facebook memories as having watched it on a whim with the kids, and everyone loved it.
Right.
And even I loved it. But do you think I can remember anything about it other than like little snippets of it?
I suspect not.
No, you're absolutely right. This is an animated mockumentary comedy film produced by Columbia Pictures and Sony Pictures Animation. The film stars the voices of Shia LaBeouf, Jeff Bridges,
Uh-huh.
Zooey Deschanel, John Heder and James Woods. It is a parody of surfing documentaries,
Oh, okay.
such as The Endless Summer and Riding Giants, with parts of the plot parodying North Shore. Let's find a plot synopsis. No, I haven't. You can't buzz in yet. I haven't started reading the plot synopsis.
Oh, well, it's too late, because I know what it is.
Okay, what is it?
Is this Surf's Up?
No.
Oh.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so I'm going to be really intrigued as to on the thought that, hey, I don't remember this film, but apparently I liked it. And also, it came out 2 years before Astro Boy. And so I guess I'm wanting to consciously make that comparison, where we join Cody, a rockhopper penguin, as he journeys from his home in Shiverpool, Antarctica, to take part in the Big Z Memorial Surf-Off. Gee, that hurt reading that. The Big Z Memorial Surf-Off on a sun-drenched tropical island. During his adventure, he meets some new friends, including Surf Nut Chicken Joe, the spirited lifeguard Lanny, and the Geek, an old washed-up pro surfer who might just show Cody that a true winner isn't always the one who comes in first.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we are watching next week.
Yeah,
Surf's Up.
I think I remember this being a good film.
Yeah,
So,
but do you remember anything else other than the vague memories that were triggered by that plot synopsis? Because I'd forgotten about the chicken.
I hadn't forgotten about the
No. Now, I remember the chicken now.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Please join us when we watch Surf's Up next week. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
As to what am I? Now we just use that for laying down a beat track. And we expand on that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No idea what melody we're supposed to put over the top of
I
it. but-
don't know. That's your department.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.